Claire and Cindy are panting real hard. It's really hot outside today. Temperatures are peaking to 104°F today, so they are coming near the porch to find some shelter. The trio is also finding shelter under the porch. So it's time to turn on the sprinklers and relieve them of some heat. I turned on the sprinklers for the chickens, and the chickens are finding some relief in the cool, wet grass. They like to dip their feet into the cool, wet grass to cool themselves down. Chickens can't sweat, and they cool themselves down by panting or by external sources. That's why I give them a lot of water with ice, and I turn on the sprinklers for them so that they cool themselves down. And make sure they have a lot of food to eat, a lot of grains, and a lot of cut vegetables, so that they don't have to forage out in the extreme heat. As the temperature approaches 100 degrees, it's time to bring the littlest chickens inside. The littlest chickens love their little cardboard house. They're all getting into the cardboard box. Well, they don't give much of a fight. I have lots of bottles of frozen ice in the refrigerator, and I also froze some rinds of watermelons as well for the chickens. I'm going to put in a frozen bottle of water into their water, just to make sure they get cold water to drink. Ice melts from the bottle and goes into the water feeder, which keeps the water cool and keeps the chickens cool as well. Also built a shelter for them with some food underneath, and there's it right under the tree. The shelter is getting some water on top of it as well. It's a cardboard shelter. This will provide some needed relief for the chickens as well. The chickens have some water with some frozen ice in water bottles as well. The littlest chickens are in the box inside in the AC. They can't tolerate much heat or much cold well enough. For the first week of their life, they like being at 95°F temperature. So it becomes too hot for them. Above 95, it is too hot for them, and they can severely get a heat stroke. So it is very crucial to monitor their temperature and make sure they're doing okay in the heat. The little one is just so curious. If it gets too cold for them, like in the AC right here, it's 80 degrees inside, getting down to 78. So they are all huddling together because they are really cold. And she wants to say hello. Alright, so I'm going to place them into the hallway, because in the hallway temperature is around 90°F because we don't have any AC in here. And now being in the hallway, it's a little bit warmer here, and they are a little bit more active. They're running around, scratching, and being active, and drinking water as well. What a way to quench your thirst. Just grab a sip of water and drink it down. Looks like they need some food now. After the sprinklers are turned off, all chickens are finding refuge in the cold grass, cold wet grass. They have some cold water, and they have some cold and frozen cucumbers and squash that they are eating. They're munching on some cold cucumber and squash, and they are enjoying it. The trio is also liking some cold cucumber and squash, and they like to put their feet on cold grass to cool themselves down. And I put down a block of ice on cardboard, so as it melts, it provides cold water for them to put their feet on, and they can cool themselves down that way. It's been real hot, and it's really hard to forage in this heat, so I make sure I provide them enough food for them to eat during the day in this heat. Claire is calling for Cindy. I don't know where Cindy is. So she makes the noise, and that's where Cindy is, right there. They both like to be together, and they're foraging on some wet, cold grass. They're munching down on food as fast as they can. It's real hot and they've been very hungry. So it's understandable to eat a lot as you can't forage out in the heat. Cindy and Claire are on the perimeter right now and they're getting shooed away by the bigger chickens. Once the bigger chicken had their fill, Cindy and Claire, oh man, the trio came over and shooed the little two away, Cindy and Claire. So they're finally eating, but since they're at the bottom of the pecking order, they have to wait a little bit more. Chickens are really using the block of ice and cold water to cool themselves down. They put their feet on cardboard which is soaked with cold ice water, which really helps them to cool them down. Since the trio is not letting the little chickens eat, I'm going to feed them on the side so they can have some food. While the older chickens are outside staying cool, the littlest chickens inside are resting and they're taking a nap. After eating, it's time to rest. All the chickens are now resting under the shade or in the grass. The trio is also resting. They're still panting because it's still hot outside. It's 1:04 right now at 4 p.m. So it'll be a little while before the temperature goes down. But they have wet ground and wet grass and shade to cool themselves down. Bees are also trying to keep themselves cool. They make little fans to keep the air circulation going to keep their hive cool. I have the same water for bees and I'm going to put a frozen bottle of water in their water as well. This will give them really cool water to cool themselves down and cool their hives down. I also fill bird baths with water and I also put a frozen bottle of water in the bird baths as well. This way the water in the bird baths will stay cool and they can drink cool water and also bring cool water back to their hive. After a quick nap, they are now woken up. I heard them chirping, so I thought I'll go to the box and check them out, and yes, they are up. So there you go. It's eating time now. This one is curious. It's always curious. The bees are drinking water as well. I keep the bird bath full and I put a bottle of ice water in there and they have been munching on some ice cold water. The hummingbird feeder is inundated with lots of bees. Bees are really hungry and very thirsty in this extreme heat, so they're going for the hummingbird feeder. As the temperature goes above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, hummingbirds stop flying out in the sun and they seek shelter. So if the bees are feeding on the hummingbird feeder, that is okay. All the bees are going for the sugar water. There's not enough sugar in this water for these bees, but they are very thirsty and very dehydrated. Even though I put in a lot of water right near their hive, they still go for the hummingbird feeder because there are lots of bees. Each colony contains about 50,000 bees, so they want to get their hands on all the resources that they can. The entire bottle full of ice is now empty. However, there's lots of cold water in the bird bath. This is the second bird bath that's next to two big hives. And all the bees are gathered around to get some water. I put some stones in there for the bees to land on top of the stone to drink some water. Otherwise, they risk drowning in the water if water is too deep. Back at the hive, they have gone through the entire sugar water. They have consumed it all, and most of the bees are hanging out, getting some cool air, cool breeze to cool their hive down and cool themselves down as well. Temperature is not dropping below 100 and it's at 95 right now. In the evening, the hummingbirds have returned. However, the bees are still hoarding the hummingbird feeder. I have quite a few hummingbird feeders, 4 in total. So if one of them is taken over by bees, hummingbirds can still go to the other ones. Hummingbirds got their fill in the morning, and now they're getting their fill in the evening to stay out of the heat. Alright, it's time to put the littlest chickens back into their brooding box. It just come right in your hand. Oops, alright. Here you go. Jump off. You wanna jump off or no? Stretching the wings. Had a nice nap. Oops. The last one. Seems to stay in my hand. You wanna go in your brooding box? Checking him out or her out. Put some fresh water for them and some fresh food for them. And now they are eating and drinking in their own brooding box.